so excited today to be able to share with you guys Joshua Finch. He has an incredible story. But I want to say hi to you as well. So, welcome, audience, a huge warm welcome. Welcome to this brand new space, this new year, this new opportunity to look at all these energetic gifts that people around us have been using and are gifting today. So, whether you are watching live or you are coming in, watching at a time that fits best for you, let's say welcome to Joshua. Joshua, we are delighted that you are here all the way from Florida. How are you today, friend?
I'm doing excellent. We definitely got a little bit of sunshine today, and it's feeling great. And yeah, I'm super excited to meet everybody here and just to meet new people and to talk about gifts and how we can use those gifts to share our love and share our art and impact the world. So I'm super grateful to be on and to share a little.
Oh, I'm so glad that you are here. So, you are not only a teacher, you're not only a speaker, you're not only inspirational, you're also an artist. You weave all these incredible things, and then you have a food forest also in Florida. How did you get to where you are today, Joshua?
Oh, I love it. I love it. So I love that you asked this question. And it's beautiful, and I told you a little bit when we had our little intro call, and I was sharing all different pieces, and whatever comes through is going to come through today. So in the beginning, uh, of a while back, maybe around 8 to 10 years ago, I was looking for purpose, and I was kind of figuring out what was spirituality and what was my purpose here. What am I supposed to do? Because I was a little bit kind of lost on a path, and then I've used creativity, one of my gifts that's been with me since I was born, and I decided that I was going to go out and walk and talk to my community. And I mentioned to you before that I didn't know. So one of the strategies I had was to be quiet and listen. So I would actually go around and I would interview people in my community, whether they worked with me or I was at the mall or I went to the beach, and I would stop at least three, and there would probably be many, many more than that sometimes. And I would say, "Can you tell me about spirituality or something that's working for you?" And I would just listen to them, and they would tell me all these different things. And some didn't know, some wanted to hear more, and one that really stuck with me is actually when I started to research a little bit on Jesus and how he was kind of walking around and he was kind of doing a little bit similar, is where he was asking people about their heart and what was alive in them, and what if God was helping them and they didn't really have a limit, what could they do with that gift? So I started playing with that, and I started seeing that I could even connect people. I would talk to one person who, which again, this is something really important that is one of my gifts, is people would talk to me. Like they felt this really safety talking to me. Like someone, and this is a little separate from where I was, where I'm talking about right now, is there'd be a woman in my school when I was in college, and she's crying on a bench, and she's in the hallway by herself, and I would sit down and say, "Are you okay? Can I talk to you?" And she would tell me this life experience about her son and about these things and all these things that are going on in her life, and it would be like she could let it out of her.
Yes.
So this safe space, also when I was in my own curiosity for spirituality, people would just let it out.
Yeah.
And one woman said her husband just passed away. She lived on a big farm, I think it was like 20 acres, and she had a whole barn full of tools, and she just didn't know what to do with it because her husband used it all and did all. He wasn't here. And I had just talked to somebody the day before about how could we make more food or grow a garden, but I just don't have the land. I don't have the supplies. I don't have the money. And I was like, oh, those two definitely need to meet. So like that was the beginning of me just stepping into my spirituality, my growth. Like, what is this here? What is my purpose here? And then using my community and that tool. And that kind of brought me down a really magical path where um, I actually went to a church at the time, and I had some moms say that they would really love some support in after school art program. Okay. And I was in college at the time working all fine arts and figuring and doing all my art, posting on Facebook. And when I did is I said yes to them. So this mom reached out and said, "Will you help us? We don't have a budget, but we're just some moms and some kids, and we really want to do art for summer." And I was like, "That's cool. Let's try it." So I went to do that, and it was very, very successful. The kids loved me. The parents loved me. The principal wrote me a message in an email and said, "Everybody loves you. School's coming up. We have a large budget. We don't have an art program for the kids. Would you make one?" So I got to actually step into my purpose. So first it was like curiosity. Let me ask everybody. I found some stuff that was sticking, and it was magic and miracles and Jesus and helping people. And then actually right before those moms talked to me, my church at the time, I just went and started going back to church because I left for a little bit and came back. And the church was like, "What gift or offering do you want to offer to God and have anointed in front of the church?" And
Wow.
I was like, "What do I have? Art and kids." I have a really big expanded family. I've grown up with lots of brothers and sisters and parents and all this. And I've always had the gift of art since the beginning. That was the only thing that I felt safe with. The rest of school
Mm.
really wasn't too safe. And so I put those on a paper, got anointed in front of the church, and within 2 weeks, that mom contacted me.
Incredible.
Within one month after that, doing the summer camp, I became the full on arts teacher for for a private school for kindergarten to 8th grade. So I built the curriculum. And again, I'm an artist in fine arts in school. I'm not education, but I was like, here's my gifts. And then an opportunity came and I was like, I'll take it.
Yes.
And I did that for 2 years. And in the midst of doing that, I actually am an extreme sport person. So I was like entering into paddleboard because it was about 10 years ago. Paddleboard was kind of just coming out. And I had a really big parachute kite where it'd pick me up in the air and fly me across the ocean and stuff like that. And I met a camp called Ultimate Water Sports, and they let me teach 9 to 12-year-olds all water sports.
Yes.
Excuse me, let me hit that off real quick.
Absolutely. How incredible, Joshua, that you are taking each of these places, each of these opportunities, and saying yes. And even to the lady who's sitting on the bench who's crying, you're saying, "Yes, I will show up. I will be there. I will listen." Absolutely incredible how the power of yes in your life is opening these tremendous doors. So you were talking about then getting to go to camp, water
Yeah,
sports.
so the camp was fulfilling my inner Tarzan, Peter Pan, jungle, inner child version of me.
Yes.
And I got to stay in a river and I got to take people on tour guides in rivers, connect with nature. I was always with all these people that loved climbing on mountains, that loved nature, that were like environmentalists. And this was in my teenage years. So this was just a whole bunch of teenagers loving nature and loving to play in nature.
Yes.
And then teaching 9 to 12-year-olds how to do the same. We had summer camp. There was at least 40 your kids 5 days a week.
Right.
Then we even took them to snowboarding. So I got to learn snowboarding and skiing for the first time. So I just did all these things with kids in as far as adventures go in extreme sports
Sure.
while I'm learning how to teach art to kindergarten to 8th grade in school.
Beautiful.
I do that. That's in Maryland. And then I move back to Florida.
Yes.
And I kind of take a little break from teaching because got a little bit in my fear because I didn't have a degree.
Mm.
And even though I did it for 2 years, I was like, I don't have a degree. What am I going to tell schools that I do?
Yeah.
And I met a friend who actually started teaching me about manifestation and meditation and all kinds of other magic. And she was like, there's a special building that I rode my bike by that says Joshua's supposed to go in it. And I was like, that sounds like magic. I'm in.
Yes, I'm in.
Yeah. So I go in it, and it's a nonprofit. It's a Center for Creative Education, and they take artists and they let artists use their gifts to partner with teachers and to teach art integration. So if I'm teaching language arts, beginning, middle, and end of a story, I might have you make a costume and then act out the beginning, middle, and end. Or I might have you draw cartoons about the beginning, middle, and end. Or I might make a game out of beginning, middle, end. Some sort of kinesthetic, hands-on movement, play. And if you know the science on arts integration, it's like 70% increase on absorption of information. So it's really, really beneficial to the kids. In my community, language arts, emotional intelligence, and communications were like way off the charts, if not even on the charts. So that's what I strengthened. That's what I said. Well, if that's the need,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it. So I started then with emotional intelligence, communications, language arts, and really kind of went full into emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And that's where I created like a lot of lessons, the color monster, where kids can learn about their emotions, their feelings by drawing these cute little monsters,
Yes.
unicorns and dragons on adventures, where challenges are these dragons that can now give you powers, and you can embrace
Mhm.
failure, you can embrace change, you can embrace mistakes.
Yes.
And I fell in love with that a lot. Like
Yes.
it was just, I was like, you got paid really well. I made my own contracts. I'm in with all the schools, but I'm a contractor, so I'm kind of like I can still have my freedom as an artist. It was
Mhm.
magic, and I was like, how come more artists don't know this?
Right.
And right at that same time, I went into personal development because that same girl was into like Tony Robbins and Gratitude and Landmark and all these
Yes.
expansive things on personal growth.
Right.
So I jumped into some of those realms, and those are also around masterminding and community building and connecting as a unit and as a whole. And then there's always this backing of peace. How can we connect as a whole to offer our service to create more peace on earth?
Yes.
Which is now also bringing me back to Jesus, which is how can I create heaven on earth? Now I found a personal development group. How can I create peace on earth? How can we all do it in unity? How can we all do it with our superpowers?
Yeah.
This magic started to build, and I got into a mastermind with Think and Grow Rich, which is
Mhm.
Napoleon Hill. So he's teaching a lot about mastermind, also definite purpose, desire, service. So again, service, 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 multiple times, peace, peace, peace. And
Yes.
that started to really cultivate in me. I started volunteering at the personal developments. I learned I could be a coach.
Mhm.
I learned I could use my safe energy and my deep listening to connect with the heart and to listen to where your heart's at, and now hold a safe space for you to start to change fear into enthusiasm, into joy, into love.
Yes. Yes.
And then of course I have my cartoons, which, yeah,
Yes.
little cartoons that are simple
Yes.
enough for little kids to draw, but now I'm teaching children how to find their self-confidence, and I'm also teaching adults how to heal their inner child and some wounds and find their self-confidence, their expression.
Yes.
And that's where I started to get into building my own programs, and that's what I do now. Is I actually, some of the places I volunteered at, I
Mhm.
put programs on there for the adults, like the gratitude training and redesign and all that. I have like the online things, and I met another artist, and we built some stuff together. And then currently, um, I met some other people from networks online, right? Because when we went into COVID, we all went online.
Right.
And I started masterminding there, and I met this woman, Tammy Valuers, in a Star Hero team. I met Christy. She's been on your show.
Yes.
Um, and those were all peace educators for elementary.
Yes.
So I really, really fell in love with 3, 4, 5, 6 year olds, even up to 8. Like
Mhm.
4 to 8 is like just like that's my gold right now. That's where I really see
Yes.
is helping
Yes.
everybody, because not only am I helping them with preventative maintenance
Mhm.
for any kind of like just really heavy trauma,
Yes.
when I'm holding a safe space for them, I'm seeing so much about my 4 year old self. I
Yes.
hung out with 4 year olds all day, and
Yeah.
their problems were my 4 year old problems. So
Mhm.
that's like my inner work. So I really, it's always been like since the beginning is like that Jesus moment where it's like, how do I go out and help people? but
Mhm.
really it's how am I helping myself so I can help people. And
Yes.
like each piece, each thread of what I did always kind of did both. I would
Yes.
help people and I would hold a safe space so they can tell me what's
Mhm.
really important to them. I could listen to see what connects to my heart. And then
Yes.
I could even say it right back to them because I listen a certain way. And then I tell them,
Yes.
wow, it sounds like you really love gardening. And it sounds like you have all the tools and all you got to do is meet a person. And the way that I would say it back to them, they would be like,
Mhm.
oh, you're right. I
Yes.
could do this. And they would get excited. So it was like, it was always kind of like that beautiful exchange of
Mm.
energy. You're teaching me something, I'm teaching you something, and we can both expand from here.
Yes.
And yeah, and that's really kind of where I come to now is I have a program where I help children and adults kind of heal their bullying, their inner bullying,
Mhm.
and then step into their creative confident self and use their art to express their heart. And
Mm.
now we're back to where I started with finding a gift to offer to humanity, right? So
Yes.
inside of everybody is that little seed of joy, that little 4 year old something.
Yes.
And I actually now do it with cartoons. So I do it with inner child cartoons and it's like an interactive program and stuff. So
Mhm.
that's currently where I'm at as long and I teach still at the Montessori school. So
Yes.
that's a few things about me.
Oh, and Joshua, I really love that you use cartoons because the cartoons, yes, you can make somebody look older or younger, right? You can do the age kind of a piece with that as well. But what the person sees the most in the cartoon is the expression or the movement, depending on how it's drawn, right? And so,
Mhm.
as you are showing emotion, as you are teaching them about emotions, they're getting to a chance to kind of see. And then the way that you're drawing them gives them a chance, if they want to pick up a crayon or paint brush or a pencil, colored pencil, whatever medium, and to then begin to do it for themselves as way in a way that is expressive for them. And what I think is so cool about that is that it begins to open up this conversation of people, I think children especially, already are able to read other people really well, especially if somebody grew up in a household where it wasn't safe. You learned to watch how people were acting and moving to know where you could get to, where I could get to, anybody can get to a safe place, right? So inside of those places, whether it was at home or in the community that wasn't safe, we learned to read people in such a way that we decide if it's a safe place for us to be. And then we decide inside ourselves, I think, if we're willing to begin to come forward and share who we are. But what I think is so powerful is that you are gifting them a whole new way of communicating, at least with themselves, right? And then um, building that vocabulary, because mad and sad rhyme, but they're not the same thing, right?
Mhm.
And so and to be able to really differentiate between the two of those. Now, one of them can run into the other one, or one can push the other direction as well, but they are standalone emotions, and that the gift of being able to draw, to be able to see them in cartoon, I think is such a really unique and special thing.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and with the mad and sad thing, and
Mhm.
that's kind of where I in my beginning years when I started learning emotional intelligence, I was like, what is it? But
Right.
I'm a courageous, confident person, so I'm like, whatever I need to do to help people, I'm going to help them, especially if it's kids, because I have a strong connection to kids because of my big family, and I've always been raised with them. So if I was procrastinating or something, I
Mhm.
would attach it to kids, and
Yes.
I'd be like, let me help them with this, and
Yes.
I would help myself by helping them. So it really just it benefited. And
Yes.
one thing in the beginning was the color monster, and the color monster is a confused monster, which is all scribbled up rainbow, and a little friend that meets the monster and says, "Oh, you're all confused. Let me tell you all your feelings so you can know the names and they're not all mixed up."
Brilliant.
So what I would do is I would read it. We
Yes.
would draw one day, we draw happy, we draw sad, we draw angry, we draw fear, we draw calm, we draw love, we draw peace.
Mhm.
And each day, that would be the whole day where they just all share their words on it.
Yes.
So now we fill the container with all of their minds. So now I'm taking my mastermind principle and I'm just putting it in
Yes.
the kindergarten classroom
Yes.
and they're all sharing it. I'm collecting it because I'm like a scientist. I'm like, you're giving me some
Right.
good stuff here. So,
Yes.
and then I would say, okay, now it's my turn. and then I would share the next level up for them.
Right.
And that was how I started. And that was cool. But now, through all the magic and meeting all these cool people and mastermind and all this, I
Yeah.
end up with Maria Montessori in a Montessori school. So Maria Montessori created the philosophy of
Right.
Montessori school.
Yes.
And the teachers that I work with are the coolest people ever. Like their gifts are just so beautiful.
Yes.
And now I evolved from mad, sad, angry, frustrated, enraged, fear, and all these different languages
Yes.
to actually physically holding the space. The teachers literally mediate, hold the space, and
Mhm.
help dictate exactly what they're feeling, because when you bond with the children and you're raising
Mhm.
them the whole year, they're your children, so like
You
you
are.
really get to know them. I mean,
Yes.
hopefully. And you can see where anger shows up in this one kid over and over and over,
Yeah.
and it's because he didn't feel like he was being fit in, he kind of felt left out or something. And
Mhm.
I'm in the Montessori school, I'm the meditation, mindfulness, and kind of holistic counselor
Yes.
slash arts expression kind of guy. So I'm like teaching emotional intelligence through art, but I'm also kind of like a safe space counselor and
Yes.
hold peace for
Mhm.
all everybody. So I get them when they're upset. They come to me and we go for a walk.
Yeah.
What I learned was it wasn't just about giving them a few extra words to talk about their feelings. It was literally like, right now, I can see you're upset.
Mhm.
And I would ask, because I was always curious in the beginning of my stages, what do you feel right now? What are the words you would use? But this one kid would never be able to give me the words back.
Yeah.
And as like a coach, I wanted them to give me theirs so I wasn't imprinting on them. But then
Right.
I just realized, you know what? You're feeling frustrated. Your friends made you mad. You felt left out. I want your friend, come here, friend. We need to have a conversation, because this is how we do it, Montessori. As soon as the problem happens, come. We're going to talk. We're friends. Everybody here is in peace. We stand on peace. We stand on friendship. We're going to talk about it. Let's see what you both have to say, and we'll deal with it right now.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
like that heavy conversation with an adult mediator,
Mhm.
and they'll say what they say, but the one boy didn't know what to say. So I said, repeat after me. I said, I feel left out
Yeah.
because you ran away from me when I wanted to play with you. And it
Yes.
made me feel upset and angry. And he
Mhm.
repeated after me to the kid. And they're like right in front of me, but I'm like telling him what to say.
Yes.
And the other kid goes, oh, I just saw a snake next to you and I needed to run. And it wasn't anything about being mean to you. I didn't even want to. And
Yeah.
I said, did you want to be mean to him? Are you still his friend? Yeah. I said, okay, does that sound good to you? Okay. All right, hug. Okay, go play.
I
And
got
it
it.
disappears.
Yeah.
So there was a level of where I didn't want to speak to
Mhm.
tell them what to do. But now on a level of like 6, 7, 8, I know, and I've been studying it long enough. This is why you're hurt. And
Right.
again, if they're not, they'll probably voice it. But a lot of times they're just like, yes. And even
Yes.
if I'm just literally saying it right next to them and they repeat it,
Yes.
if it comes out of their mouth, the friend almost didn't even know I was there. It was like I was a
Right.
narrator.
Right.
And that was a really big one for me, is just tell them what they need, because a lot of times people are so in their emotion, their thing,
Mhm.
they just need what to say. And if they could just say it, it would just be over, but they don't have the words. And that's a really big thing. What I do with my trainings is help you express yourself, help
Mhm.
you express yourself with words, with art, with
Yeah.
movement, with cartoons, with
Yes.
anything
Yeah.
that supports, for you to feel like you're heard and seen, which again, that's one of the biggest things for kids is shut up and be quiet. You're not meant to be. So I always teach the opposite of that.
Yeah. Joshua, what you are sharing with me just really reminds me of this experience that I had of learning that um, relationships, the closer the relationship is, the more possibility that we have of learning and being taught, of being able to see ourselves, right? The person's mirroring for us, right? But we're able to then also, let's see if we can put this into words well today. We're able to then see ourselves in the mirror of the other person that we trust because of the closeness of the relationship. But it also gives us the chance to decide if we want to change or not. And so about being in community, about being in these really strong relationships, is actually a space for us to continue to grow in. So even though I'm almost 59, I'm still growing, right? I'm still learning, I'm still experiencing, I'm still taking things in. And I'm in some of those processes are still not very comfortable lessons to learn. It's still not comfortable for me to feel super angry or super frustrated about something. But when I take a deep breath and a step backwards and realize why I'm feeling that way, it's the acting out on it that hurts the other person, right? If I choose to feel that emotion and be present for myself, but yet I don't take it out on anybody or anything, I'm then able to dissipate it in such a way that is healing for everybody, including for myself. And maybe for the other person, it may take them 5 or 10 years, who knows, for them to realize that I'm processing things differently. They may not realize it right away, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And yet, in that space, my being in that relationship or having somebody willing to mirror back for me is so incredibly powerful. So, you doing this for 4 year olds, for 8 year olds, for 12 year olds is truly life changing for them. And one of the things that I really appreciated, because we build our confidence when we say that we're going to do something and then we actually follow through and do it. So, our confidence is built in that place. That you help kids climb trees, if I remember this correctly. That the kid says, "Okay, I'm going to do this," or you say, "Let's do this together." And in that process, then you are helping them overcome their fears. Obviously, you are there as a safety net. It's all being done in a safe place. I would love for you to share about that, because that, for me, I had forgotten about how I used to climb trees in Africa. I had just forgotten that, right? And as you talked about that in our conversation previously, I began to see myself as a kid learning how having somebody put their hands together or have me step on their knee in order to get up to the place I could actually start climbing. And would just love for you to share part of how that works for you at school and what you do with that.
Yeah, that one's really close to my heart. So again, in the beginning, I was looking for like, what is this purpose? What is this thing?
Mhm.
And it was really, how do I heal from what I had already experienced and just
Yes.
become more who I am and just remember. And trees are one of my most safe spaces. When I was little, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, all the way, I would climb in these really, really big ficus trees, which are like
Mhm.
banyan trees, and their roots are huge. And I was a tiny kid. I weighed 90 pounds a lot of times, and I could run up the tree, run out the branch, jump on another one, and I was like Peter Pan. Tarzan was like my mentors, and I felt cool and powerful when I could swing and run. So that's where my heart began.
Mhm.
And now, as you mentioned in school, and how I'm also healing all the time, so that I'm using my curiosity and my love and connection for kids to
Mhm.
teach me about myself, just like you said with the mirror. So I noticed all these kids love trees. And I'm in a Montessori school, and we build play and nature into every aspect, if not 75% of the school, and everything is play nature. Um, so I'm like, yes. And I have like my own trees, my own garden, all that stuff. But I would watch these 4-year olds, little tots, try and climb up this big tree to do what the bigger kids are doing and coming down on these ropes, because I put ropes all throughout the trees so they can swing and stuff like that. And there's wood in the trees so they can sit and have their little spots and talk. And the 4, 5, 6-year olds, they'd be like, I've never done that before. And I'm like, oh, come on, let's go. So I'm taking them up there, and halfway up the ladder, they'd start to tremble. And then when they get up to the top, they'd start crying and bawling and like freezing. And I'm like, whoa, psychology science right here. Like, this is trauma response in the happening. Like, I'm
Right.
like, whoa. And I'm
Yes.
like, okay, okay. I say, you're safe. So
Yes.
that's the number one thing for me as a coach, as a teacher, as a person, is you're safe, you're safe. And I say it out loud, say, I'm safe.
Safe. I'm
And I
safe.
say, okay, I feel fear and I do it anyways. And I would just tell them that I feel fear and I do it anyways. And I would say, come on, let's go. And I say, if you need to stay here, we can stay here, but I believe you and I got you and it's safe. And we would go through it, and I could, within like sometimes 20 minutes, it might take a little time sometimes, but I could be with them maybe one day and then the next day, or within the same day, they come back down, they get back up, come back down. and I can watch them vibrate and shake and tremble and pure like fear coming out of them, and then crying, and I make them do it anyways because I'm like, if I had somebody, I would have done wanted that. So
Yeah.
I'm making them do it anyways. They climb down this rope, they hit the ground, and instantly, whoa, I did it! And they start running around screaming. They're high fiving. They're happy. They're giving hugs. They want to
Yes.
run back up and do it again. And it's like,
Yeah.
to even be in that kind of energy is like, it's just so cool. And I can do that back to back because there's at least 12, 15 kids there while I'm doing it.
Right.
And just watching that, and just really, now that's the preventative maintenance, right? So that's
Mhm.
me protecting them moving forward. And they're
Right.
still going to have their struggles, but they're just not going to have it in that because I've helped them with that part.
Right.
So another piece that's really special to it is those are the 4, 5, 6, 7 year olds.
Mhm.
Well, the 8, 9, 10 year olds are in a different group. And
Yes.
this one boy, he's having difficulty with these two pretty girls, and he wants to fit in, and there's
Mhm.
hormones and all that kind of stuff going on. And he gets his feelings hurt, and he
Mhm.
runs up into the tree to cry and to be safe in the tree. And
Yeah.
I got it right there. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
my 7, 8 year old self would go hide in trees and feel safe and cry in trees. And that's where the
S-
tree was like holding me and nurturing me. And Mother Nature was holding me in a tree. And I
Yes.
was like, that's it for me for sure.
Yeah.
I love trees. And I'm Joshua Tree. I have Joshua's Sacred Garden. I got Joshua's Food Forest. So, like, I'm super, super nature. And
Yes.
I'm in a Montessori school where we're built nature into school. So, like,
Mhm.
me healing my inner child and holding a safe space for myself is teaching in trees. Okay,
Yes.
so now I'm teaching little children 4 or 5 to overcome their fear
Mhm.
and to instantly just choose it anyways and feel the power at the other end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Now I'm reflecting and seeing my own self. Whoa, and my 8 year old self needs to be in trees, so I need to do stuff in trees forever. That's just
Right.
how I see my life, and
Yes.
I'm building schools in trees. That's my purpose. That's what I want to do.
Yes.
That's like the big vision. So don't go too far with that. But um, and then now, because I'm the mindfulness and meditation guide, and
Yes.
I want them to love what they love, which they love trees. I don't have to tell a 4 year old they love trees. They want to climb them. They love them. I
Yes.
know I need them for safety. So now, helping the children, helping myself. So now
Yeah.
I teach them how to meditate in trees because I just mixed it all in and added another element because why not? So
Right.
now I have little kids sitting in trees in our favorite sacred tree, and that's where we practice our meditation.
Mhm.
So I'm meditating, I'm in trees, I'm helping kids in trees. So it's like, that's how my experience always works because I have creative confidence. It's like, well, I want all of those things. How can I put them together? I went to the arts integration school. How can I integrate everything together? I
Yes.
did all these mastermind things. How can I mastermind together? So
Yes.
those are the things that I keep coming. And now, again, I have my big trees, and I do like tree nature retreats where I'm teaching mindfulness
Mhm.
meditation and how to protect the soil, how to connect with the trees. So
Yes.
it kind of went from all those pieces
Mhm.
to really keep me rooted in I am a tree in a sense. Like there's a
Yes.
meditation I do with that. So
Yeah. I love that. And I love that idea of having meditation in trees and a meditation using trees because there is so much that if we can allow ourselves the gift of the time to listen to the person who is doing the meditation and we allow that ourselves to move into that space, that we can really come out much stronger as just from doing one meditation as a result of that. I have experienced that myself, just so incredible. So as you were talking about having a food forest and you having, Joshua's garden and all these different safe places that you have created, for somebody who lives in a small flat, a small space, I just personally believe how important it is to have plants around. And the very first TED Talk that I ever watched was one on somebody who had a factory. He was Indian in India, had a factory there, and talked about needing to clean the air for the workers, and put in a plant that the street name for it is snake. snake tongue or
Uh-huh.
mother-in-law tongue, right? And just how
Mother-in-law snake.
incredible, yes, exactly. And how incredible that cleans the air. I mean, formaldehyde, it's just amazing what it does. Just naturally, just saying, yep, I'll take that and I'll take that and I'll purify and clean that as well. So for me, no matter where I have lived, the tiniest little places, studios, I've always had plants. And sometimes when I've moved, I haven't been able to take my friends with me, my plants with me, and then I'm starting over again, right? And so finding people like you who understand taking twigs of things and being able to make them grow is just such a gift. Why do you think it's important, no matter where you live, to be able to have that connection with plants?
Wow, that's a really good question. And well, congratulations on that first of all, because you having a plant, and from what I just heard,
Mhm.
is self-love. So
It
you're
is.
taking care of your air, you're taking care of your quality time with yourself, so you have a buddy that you feel connected with.
Yes.
And if I went into like a little bit of a spiritual realm of it,
Mhm.
it's Mother Earth, and we kind of came from our mother, so
Yeah.
we can have the nurturing love and the cuddly, the softness, the love that we all want. We all want to be nurtured on some level.
Right.
And unless you've forgotten it and maybe had some trauma, so maybe that's not real for everybody, but Mother Nature and nature really helps us create that safe space for ourselves.
Yes.
And when I was doing my kind of walk around and talking to people in the very beginning of my story,
Mhm.
one thing that I saw a need for the most was good vegetables and food. Like, how could we grow food that was going to help people?
Mhm.
And I had was in Maryland, so the soil's really rich, and my uncle let me tear up his yard, and my aunt was also a gardener.
Yay.
So I just started planting stuff. And
Yes.
you can plant one tomato and get 100 tomatoes from it, or zucchini or squash or whatever. And there's just so much that I was like, people need food. Why don't we just grow gardens in front of our yard? It would be totally easy. And so I started teaching that.
Yes.
And um, I didn't really know like the business marketing and all that, so it was more like just a few of my friends. It was beautiful, but it didn't like really scale too big.
Mhm.
And then it was perfect because what it did is it I moved back to Florida, and I moved back to my family's ranch. It's a horse
Mhm.
ranch. It's 10 acres, and my mom had like two or three like baby citrus, and that was kind of it. And I was like, whoa, let me make some stuff here. And then I got this idea, well, what if I taught people how to grow without spending money?
Right.
Because I could totally do this without spending money.
Yes.
So there's lots of plants like the mother-in-law's tongue, or the
Mhm.
mother-in-law or snake plant,
Yes.
which is very, very good for cleaning, but you can take that little piece, clip it off, stick it back in the soil, and you got two. You can do
Exactly.
that times 10, and there's like 100.
Yes.
So I would clone and clip and transplant and walk around the neighborhood because I like walking. I'd find plants that were left on the side of the road or dying or not watered, and I just put them all back together. And then I would sell them, give them away, and I was teaching people how to do it without it. And
Yes.
that grew into tearing up all my yard, creating a shredder machine for the horse manure. My father,
Perfect.
uh, we were selling our manure, or you have to pay to get it removed, and I was like,
Yeah.
no, I want that, I need soil.
Yes.
So, and he was like, okay, if you want that, sure. Within a
Mhm.
week, he goes, I'm gonna build you this machine, because he's like an inventor kind of person. And he
Cool.
built me this big huge X machine where you put the poop in and it shreds it in little pieces, and then that helps it break down like 2 months
Faster.
earlier than
So
longer.
much faster. Yes.
So I have all this soil now, and I just start tearing my whole yard up, putting soil everywhere, regenerating the soil, putting bananas here,
Yes.
papaya, pineapple, moringa, guava,
Yes.
um, just all kinds of plants everywhere. And I build this big, huge jungle. And
Mm.
that's Joshua's jungle now, which
Yes.
is an interactive, experiential jungle where you're like doing body movement,
Mhm.
but then it's also a safe haven, which is Joshua's sacred garden, which is
Yes.
where it's meditation, bonfires, and peace building.
Love that.
But for me, kind of go back to directly your question is,
Mhm.
what is the connection with me and plants? Is I feel connected with them. I feel like it's my Mother Earth, and like this is where we live. This is what we take care of. without the breath, without your breath of life, the thing that they're given, we're giving them their energy, they're giving us.
Yes.
So like we're
That
very much
symbiotic relationship.
interconnected. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I teach about energy and everything's
Mhm.
connected. So absolutely plants. And I'll even sit underneath my trees because I know they're safe for me. And
Yes.
I know they're safe for lots of children. So I imagine at some point in time, somebody had some experience with it. I know some people in like cities, maybe not so as much, but
Mhm.
I feel loved and connected when I'm connected with plants. And I know scientifically they're taking care of me.
Yes.
Emotionally, they're taking care of me. And really, the power of imagination, whatever you want them to do, they'll help you.
Yes. Yes.
And they're really, really special. And even so is um, when you mentioned a meditation,
Mhm.
I do a meditation with a tree where we stand rooted and grounded and safe like a tree, and we have our hands up in the air. So
Yes.
now we're holding a positive position pose, we're releasing positive chemicals. We
Right.
feel like a tree, our roots are rooted into the ground. Now
Yes.
we are strong, and
Yeah.
now we're back in safety.
Right.
So I need everybody to be in safety before they can grow. If you're
Right.
not in safety, you can't grow. So, and then even now, look, it even goes all back because everything's interwoven.
Yes.
Jesus always gave parables about nature, about
Yes.
plants, about
Yes.
all of it. So,
Yes.
and you can look at many master
Mhm.
teachers and they'll all connect you to parables about the earth and
Yes.
Buddhism, all these different
All of
things.
them. Yeah.
And I know that my inner child is. So it's like
Mhm.
for me, it's a no-brainer. It's just who I am, it's what I do. And I
Yes.
can teach anybody to have any kind of plant. And one good strategy, this is a super good one. Plants die, get another one. Don't stop.
Right.
Like just keep
Right.
getting them and
Yes.
eventually you'll find the ones that don't die because there's
Right.
actually plants that are like super strong and you
Yes.
can't kill them. Like they're really hard to kill. You
Yes.
might have gotten the ones that are like super easy and they just die within 2 3 days and
Right.
you're like bummed out and you're done. I
Yes.
would say keep going. And there's many plants that you can get where they're just hard to kill. So
Yes. My dear friend is a florist, and Lori will say that plants were never meant to be inside, that they were always meant to be outside, right? And so to be very aware of that when you pick plants to be inside, because some of them just want the wind to be blowing, they want the rain to be on them, they want all of those things. And so to be just aware of that. And the times that I have stayed in the other wing of her house, I have just been so impressed with how she takes her beautiful Boston ferns that are just massive, and they get to come in for a day, maybe two, and then they're right back outside in the shaded area. So every time she has a dinner party, of course, that they are in with the dinner party and all those kinds of things, right? It's absolutely stunning. But they don't live inside. They
mm,
get to come inside for special times when people come over, that kind of thing. And so I have learned so much from her about that, because my thought was, this is an inside plant. I'm going to take it inside forever and ever, always. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes they just don't do well in that particular windowsill or wherever they happen to be. They're just like, they don't make the adjustment as well as we'd like for them to make. You're speaking about parables, and this thought came to me recently, and I need to do some research on this. I'm not a theologian by any means at all, but there's this amazing parable that Jesus speaks about how, the gardener goes out to the sower goes out to sow, right? And he has seed, and all of the seed is good. There's not any seed that's moldy or bad or aged or anything. Every part of the seed is good. And as he goes out and is just gently putting out all of the seed falls in different places. Some of it's on rocky places, some of it starts to grow and bolts and then dies, and some of it because it doesn't have a good enough root structure. And all these different things that happen. The birds come and take some of it. And then there are the seeds that land in the right places. They are cultivated, and it's 30, 60, 100 time fold of what that one seed produces in its lifetime, right? And I was sitting at church recently, and the row in front of us had some teenagers who were supposed to be there. They were between, I think they might be aunts, and that, aunts with their uncles come, and then all the cousins sit together in between the aunts and uncles. This is who I think it is, at least in my mind. And the teenage kids are like, yeah, we're here, and just not feeling it, right? And in that space, I thought again in my own life and how this was healing for me to watch this. I thought that used to be me. I was that rock, right? This beautiful seed is being sown. And I was just that rock going, oh, if I could only have 2 more hours of sleep this morning, which teenagers need more sleep. And so, but then as I got older, it just felt like that there was a place in my life where the soil became open, right? And so I wonder if that story, that parable is not just about the seed and where it's sown, but this is the part that I'm not a theologian, but I wonder if it's also in our own life, in our own experiences, if there can be times where we feel like out of discouragement that the birds come and take the seed of good news. Somebody like you comes and gifts this incredible conversation and gifts so many tools about being able to move forward with confidence and creativity in our lives, and yet in a place in their own life of not being able to receive it for whatever reason, and it feels like that's taken away, right? But yet through the life, being able to come to a place where we do feel good inside of the success of something coming forward at 30% or 30 times more, right? And then being maybe courageous and willing for it to be open, for us to be in that space of saying, okay, if that's true, could it optimally grow to 60 or 100 fold? Are we willing to be on the journey and to be part of the journey, part of that story? Are we willing to say, even with fear, I'm going to do it anyway? That's just my wonderings for today.
So good, and I love that. So that's yeah, that's definitely a beautiful parable, and I've actually grown to experience it in real life because I have a acre garden. So my garden is a food forest. It has lots of food. I started it with like, I don't know, 500 square feet or something, and now it's a whole acre, and I've experienced it. And what you're actually the shorter version is tending to the soil. And like in my program that I was my creative confident self, it's about understanding the soil of the mind, the soil of the
Mm.
heart, the soil of the flesh, the body. So if we tend to the soil, we can actually produce a soil where no matter what lands in it, it's going to grow. Even the weeds too. But imagine actually fully embodying that parable as you as the farmer, and you actually knowing that it's okay. Your whole life is you're going to experience, you're going to put all these seeds are going to pour out, but
Yes.
the ones that are the soil is tended to. So
Yes.
if you give more attention to tending to the soil and you move the rocks, you move the weeds, or you give food to the birds over here so they're not over here. You know what I mean? Like the
Yes.
squirrels have
Yeah.
some of my bananas. The warblers, these little tiny birds, they come and they love the moringa. So
Yes.
like I believe that there's enough because I don't use poisons, I don't use glyphosate, I don't use anything, and
Right.
I believe there's just enough where everybody can have some. And
Yes.
if it dies, it dies. I'll plant a new one. There's never. I'm just going to keep growing it because I'm not a person who has one garden and needs to tend it and keep it the exact same way. I'm
Right.
like chopping stuff down, digging holes and burying it so worms can eat it and caterpillars and all these things, centipedes.
Yes.
So really beautiful. I agree and I align with the 100% is all in the parable. And
Mm.
how can we now bring that into our emotional, into our mind, into our heart, and tend to the soil so
Yes.
that way the soil is ready for
Yeah.
the seeds? How can I prepare my body physically? I'm with a friend who my program is being hosted on his site, Jason Demchuk, and it's with Optimize Health Collective, and he's bringing people together and making a collective. Again, mastermind. I'm always into that's how we do it together as a unit,
Yeah.
and he takes care of the physical body. So he
Mhm.
teaches about glyphosate, about fiber, about health and wellness, and like how to tend to the flesh, tend
Yes.
to the body,
Yes.
and take out the toxins.
Mhm.
Okay, well, emotions. Okay, how do we tend to the emotions? How do we clear out the toxins from our emotional soil?
Mhm.
So that way, when the seeds hit, they flourish.
Yes.
So those parallels and those things really bring that's what it brings to me. But another thing that really sprung up from your conversation is those kids in the front row. My
Yes.
family, we created a church. I was 5 years in it. My uncle was the pastor. My parents were the clergy. We were in non-denomination, and I was part of the youth group. And my youth group was we were dancing and we were singing, we were moving. And I
Yes.
loved it. It was so cool. We did adventures, we did camping, we did paintball, and it
Yes.
was so cool.
Yes.
And through teaching, I've realized that youth want to be loved and accepted, and they want to express themselves. And
Yes.
their inner bullying
Yes.
and their outer bullying. So the outer bullying
Uh-huh.
creates an internal bullying that just continues from
Yes.
their own emotions. If they don't have emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, self
That's right.
regulation, it
Yes.
continues to be bullied inside, and it just holds them in that bullying, that heaviness. And they all want to not be bullied. They all want to be accepted. They all want to express their heart, their love. They want to offer their gifts. And
Yes.
that's where I start with the child, or with the little one, it's not so much I prevent them from going there. But the older ones, it's more like, how can I teach you what your service or gift is? So basically, where I started with my story today, how
Yes.
can I get them to tell me theirs? How
Yes.
can I get them to go ask their community to figure out theirs? How can I get them to go see what everybody else is so they know that that's not them and they end up with what they are?
Right. Right.
So if you want to support youth, help them learn about themselves so they don't need to be like everybody else.
Yes. Yes.
And
Oh,
if they can shine in that light and that power, and you can keep charging them and charging them by telling your own story on that level,
yes.
they won't need to look left or right to be happy. They can start within. And that's, again, the
Yes.
emotional intelligence and the confidence. And the reason why I do what I do is,
Mm.
inside of every adult is that same kid. If it
Yes.
hasn't been addressed when you were 5, 8, 10, it's still there.
Now is the
It was
time.
it was there for me, and I built a whole world around it because I know that this is my purpose. So that's
Yes.
what I would say to anybody: is you want to support the kids, support them. You want to support yourself, support the kids. Because you
Right.
said mirror earlier, right?
Yes.
Look at them as a tool, as a mirror tool. Like, when you
Yes.
were their age, you went through the
Yes.
same thing.
Yeah.
And
So,
now, yeah,
Joshua, we're coming to the end of our conversation today. We have about a minute or so. I would love for you to reiterate anything that you would like to. You've shared so many precious tools with us and tips and thoughts, and just would love for you to reiterate anything that comes to mind.
thank you so much. First of all, I'm honored to be here, and I appreciate all of you
Mm.
listening. Your voice matters. My voice matters. And when we listen to each other, we feel heard, we feel loved, we feel accepted. So I'm honored, first, for that. And second, the project that I'm working on,
Mhm.
which is helping adults and children heal their inner bullying, right?
Mhm.
Their outer, which turned into inner, and it kind of holds them in those traumas, those stuck, through curious cartoons, through playful cartoons, through holding a safe space. And that's coming up soon, so I'll give it to you in the bio so they can find links to
Perfect.
that. It'll be out in January, and that's just a program that you can go through, and you can just do it at your own pace. Of course, I'm connected with Peace Education, so Tammy Valuers and Hero Intelligence. So if you want to bring education, peace education, personal development, life skills learning in a program, I'm
Yeah.
connected with that, and I teach that in the Montessori school.
Yes.
So anything around bringing peace to yourself, to your emotions, to kids, to doing your own transformational work,
Mhm.
that's what I'm into. So if you want to connect with me on that, we can get on a call. I have lots of resources. My whole life and forever is going to be this. So uh,
Yes.
and yeah, if you need any support in that, I have friends, mentors, teachers, tools, programs,
Yes.
and I would love to connect.
Joshua, I so appreciate your heart. I appreciate how you are able to look at your entire life and see all of it. If we can continue with this gardening concept, almost as a compost pile where all these beautiful things are coming out of, right? It's enriching your future. And so seeing it as this beautiful, everything that's happened is seeing it as something that has new life, new way to be able to impact other people's lives for better. And I just thank you so, so deeply for the gift of this time, for you carving it out. I know that you have many things that you're working on. And yes, check out the bio to see what Joshua is offering, because great things are coming forward. And Joshua, we just say thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd love to add one last thing to that.
Yes.
I walked through a preserve near my old house in Fort Lauderdale, and there was a sign with an old, moldy, kind of mildewy stump, and it said compost. Everything in nature has its place, and it's always feeding the other thing. So
Yes.
if we come from Mother Nature, We're all perfect and whole and complete. Everything we have is useful and for some other purpose. And if
Yes.
we can think about what you just said, is that compost is
Yes.
everything that goes into the compost gives life to the next thing that brings life to the next thing. And it's always a circle
Yes.
of whole, perfect, and complete.
Yes.
And if we can just keep remembering that we have the ability to take everything without the judgment, without the shame, without the guilt, and just let it compost and regrow something new with the right tending of hands and the right action. So it's faith without works is dead. So if we take that action, we
Yeah.
find the right tools, the right mentors, the right guides, we can make a beautiful soil which will grow heaven on earth, right?
Absolutely. And with that, we say thank you so much. We will see you next time.